Sorry.
Sounds good.
The time is now 7:30 for the Board of Health meeting.
All right, we're gonna take the first item on the amended agenda on items not anticipated within 48 hours. We're gonna discuss the property at 10 Cape Road.
All right, at 10 Cape Road, we do have Daniel Markman on the line. Dan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, so on 10 Cape Road, we received a complaint on January 3rd of this year. As you can see by the timeline, from January 3rd up until yesterday, July 25th, the Board of Health has been involved with a resident that was residing there as a live-in nurse for the elderly resident. There was problem with the septic system. The septic system has been repaired. Pests have been alleviated. Ms. Edmonds from our Mendon Health Agent has conducted housing inspection reports. But with recently yesterday, Daniel Markman and Colleen Straponi, both our health agents from Mendon, have went out there yesterday. So I'll leave it up to Dan and Colleen to finish out their inspection.
Dan, you want to start?
What exactly do you think we should start with? Just
what you seen out yesterday when you were doing the housing inspection from yesterday.
Yep. All right. So we noted that there was sewage leaking from the first floor toilet when the second floor toilet was flushed. We noted that there was fecal material from an unknown animal on the second floor. The occupant complained that it may be a raccoon, but she wasn't sure. We noted that there was a missing handrail on the basement stairs, and trying to remember, there was Colleen. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Do you have the
I
order
do.
letter? All
Yep.
right. What am I missing?
The hot water.
Oh yes, the water at the shower was 141.8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 20 degrees higher than the maximum limit as allowed by the code.
So the most immediate go ahead, Dan.
No, I think, sorry, that I was just going to say that was it.
So the most immediate concern that we had when we arrived on site was the fact that you had a backup of raw sewage into the dwelling. And like Dan said, we went upstairs, flushed that toilet, and the toilet on the first floor overflowed with raw sewage all on the floor. We called the owner, the property owner, Mr. Keller, and he came over. We showed him what our concern was. He brought us downstairs through the bulkhead into the basement, and there's the old cast iron pipes are in there. And he took off the cover, and there was a enormous clog in there, and there's pictures of it. And Mr. Keller removed all of the clog that was in there until the water that was backed up was running clear. And then today he went into that downstairs bathroom and he cleaned it, and he cleaned up all of the debris that was there. Last night, what was it, like 5:15, we went into the house after he cleared out the clog, and we flushed both toilets upstairs, and we ran the sink. There was no backup whatsoever. And then we looked at the outlet pipes on the outside, and they were clear. There was water running through them. There was no sign of any type of breakout or effluent on the property whatsoever at that time.
Awesome.
Is there anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, just to emphasize that the two pipes that leave the property, leave the foundation, do have inspection points. So as we flush the toilet upstairs, you can look down with a flashlight and you can see the water flowing, and so the plug was the major source of the whole problem.
So it's more of a plumbing issue inside the dwelling versus a septic issue.
Yeah, it was right, the septic system was just done over by Rodenizer. And, the issue really stems from too much, paper, being flushed down the toilet. So when I cleaned out the toilet this afternoon, it was extremely large amounts of paper, in there. And when I took the cover off to clean out the T for the plug down in the basement, again, large amounts of paper that, excessive amount of paper.
Is it just your standard type of toilet paper that's?
You know, most toilet paper tends to dissolve and, you don't get bunches of paper the size of a, basketball.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have a trash barrel and, just the stuff I took out of the toilet would fill up the trash barrel about this high.
Hmm.
Now, how, that's just not right, and then there was quite a bit that came out of the plug too. I mean, large amount. We have video of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of it here. This is what it looked like beforehand. That's the amount of paper that was in the toilet.
How to
And
discern what kind of paper that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
right.
Huh.
It's
This is
not
what-
your Scots.
Yeah.
this is what the toilet looks like today.
Oh, that improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are other issues on the property that will be addressed in orders that we will mail to you.
Okay.
It's basically, because of the droppings that were noted on the second floor, we're gonna ask that you once again treat the property for, pests. And also the, tenant advised us at the time that, she was getting bitten by what she named mites. I didn't see any type of, pests that existing in the dwelling. However, there was droppings upstairs, so the property should be treated.
Okay.
The hot water, you're probably gonna have to have your plumber come and lower the hot water heater.
Okay, to 120.
Yep,
Yeah, I think it's 110 to 120 is the range, right?
yep.
So 120 would be the max.
But we'll send you the remaining violations. The only other thing was that second floor, when we went upstairs, that folding door that was there, all the slats were out of it. And they were on the floor. So that's something that's noted in this report, and you're more than welcome to read it, and we'll send a copy of it to you as well.
Okay.
Is anyone living on the second floor?
She's, especially in the hot weather, she's living on the first floor where there's an air conditioner.
Okay, so this is a single family,
Correct, right now.
well, but it's 2 stories.
Right, but it, at one point, it was a two-family, okay, then when me and my folks lived there, we just had it as a single family.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there is a kitchen upstairs, there's 2 bathrooms upstairs, so, and then a kitchen downstairs, and, so it is a two-family.
So there's 1 occupant at this time.
One occupant, and she's pretty much staying on the lower level where the AC is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she mostly resided in, looked like just 2 rooms, the kitchen area. There
Yeah,
was like a little sitting area there, and then there was a bedroom.
So she did
Well,
report
you-
to us at the time of inspection that she used the upstairs bathroom, but given the fact that the downstairs toilet is now repaired, I don't know if that's still true.
she does have the option now of using all 3.
All 3 bathrooms.
I was gonna ask, who out of curiosity and from a general perspective, kind of oversees the property from a general maintenance perspective? Is that yourself?
That's me.
I mean, initially, we know this goes back to January. That
Yeah.
was the first report of some issues. I will say, since the first inspection, even to the second one, those were addressed very quickly. because the second or the first reinspection did talk about, still seeing some observances of, what may have been mice or droppings and things like that, that still apparently existed, although we do see that you did have a pest control group come in and do some work,
Yes, correct.
but
Yeah, they were actually there more than once.
There were a couple
Yeah,
of
they
times.
came for initial time and then we have a report that they came as a follow-up.
Oh, okay.
Several follow-ups.
Okay,
There were several.
yeah, I saw
follow-ups.
2 dates.
Okay,
Got 2 of those.
And another follow-up to come.
Okay, yeah, so these guys are, they're on your clock.
Right,
Okay,
right. They're on the, yes,
all right.
bingo. Yeah.
Because I'm still seeing, even on the most recent reinspection yesterday, there was a notation about evidence of fecal material in upstairs area of unidentified animal. So I don't know if that's still a continuation of the same problem with pest control. Could this be an ongoing problem or something new that hadn't been detected previously, or, you know?
She does have a dog now. But we could not determine whether that fecal matter came from the dog or not,
Yeah, okay.
but there is a dog in the house.
I did speak with Danielle Edmonds, the inspector who conducted the initial inspection. Apparently, that dog was present back then. But yeah, we couldn't identify whether the fecal matter came from the dog or not. It didn't look like it, but I can't tell you.
Okay,
Out of curiosity, what type of dog do you know?
It's similar to a greyhound. It's white, trying to remember the exact name of it. Very, very much like a part greyhound and part something else.
Not on the small side, a little bit on the.
Medium.
Yeah.
The last page is the picture of the dog.
okay, yep. I didn't notice that.
Top left-hand corner.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I guess basically you're aware of the violations that were found.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pest control company is coming back.
Yeah,
The septic system was repaired
yeah,
and you fixed the plumbing problem. So that should be in order. So, just do your best to, go through this checklist
Mhm.
and get those things taken care of. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, that's why we're here.
okay. Yeah.
I would definitely, I know I was reading the report and it's a Fieldstone foundation.
Yeah.
So I would definitely probably keep this pest company on the payroll.
Right,
Whatever they suggest or you work out with them should be regular visits. And that will take care of the problem eventually, or at least keep it in check.
yes,
Um, any suggestions that they may give you to tighten up the foundation, if there's something that they've seen, obviously it's gonna be advantageous to try to take care of that.
Yeah.
That's about as far as we can go to help you.
yeah, yeah.
I understand you have some other things that you need to do.
Yeah.
To help remedy this situation.
Yeah, the goal actually is to kind of restore the house and get it back to its former glory, so to speak.
Mhm.
When my mom and dad were there, they had a lot of pride and it was a really nice house. And when my dad got older and, um, things started going down a little bit. And, so now they've gone down and we have a challenge right there with the person who's there. So that challenge, we feel, we can't do anything while she's there. Okay, other than these kind of simple things.
Okay.
So we'll take care of this list and hopefully in the future.
Now, you obviously work right next door.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm there
Yeah, and
a lot.
whatever you can do to keep a check on it
Yeah,
would keep us from having
right.
to come out.
Which, so seeing as you mentioned that, one check that I thought I would be doing is once a week going down and pulling the inspection plug. So this doesn't surprise us again.
Well, and the other thing you could do, I know it's more work, but keep a log.
People what?
Keep a log of some kind,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know,
And it's
because that way there, you know, if we have to assist you again, maybe we can pinpoint what's going on. Something, this occurred between this time and this time.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, maybe we can help, help you out.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah, thank you.
And, we've all had senior parents, so we understand how this could come about.
Mhm.
It's,
Yeah.
it's tough when they don't want any help.
So my dad has moved on. He's in the Willows, right? But the helper has not moved on, even though she's been asked. So it's been a difficult situation.
Was that actually, out of curiosity, is that at this point then a tenant landlord relationship?
Okay, so it's not a tenant landlord relationship because she was hired as a licensee to take care of my dad. She was not, and there was no rental agreement, there's no lease agreement, there is nothing. She was just licensed to take care of my dad as long as my dad was there and needed help.
Okay,
So now that my dad is gone, she's not needed anymore, but she will not leave. In fact, when my dad was still at the house, she was asked to leave. He said he didn't want her here anymore. And she would not leave. I have told her to leave as the landowner.
Mhm.
I have told her to leave and she will not leave. And so part of me thinks that part of this is a bit of sabotage because it's happened before and she was able to stay extra 4 months, 4 or 5 months, actually, let's call it 6. Because when I went to my lawyer's office, we got it all cleaned up from the first time. And he said, well, if you try to, you know, get her to leave right now, it looks like retaliation, because she called the Board of Health, you're retaliating and getting her out of there. So that might be how the judge might see it, but this has gone too far enough. I really think all the paper and all the septic is sabotage.
That might be beyond what we can help you with.
I know.
We sympathize with your situation, especially where you're trying to be a decent guy.
Yeah.
Um, But we'll help you on this side of the line
And I
with
thank you.
whatever
for
we
that.
can to help keep the
Yeah.
property in order.
Mhm.
How long ago did Rodenheiser do the septic system?
I think it was January.
Okay, so they redid the system.
Oh, they took care, well, one of the major problems back then was when Rodenheiser went in, they found the plug, but they also found a broken pipe that was skewed. And so they replaced it, and I do have some really nice pictures of the work they did. They said that we should put another cover on the septic tank, and they got the concrete cover, made it dual covers, They did a nice job. They put the camera down the septic
Yep.
field. He said, boy, it was great. They pumped it out. When they pumped it out, he said, boy, you guys are lucky, you were like 6-8 inches from the sludge going down the pipe. You got it just in time, really just in time.
Right.
So, that system has always worked perfect. My mom and dad lived there and, for, 43 years, and honestly, they never had the septic system pump that I know of. That septic tank went 40-something years without a problem. And now all of a sudden, we have a problem, but all of a sudden, we have somebody different living there. So
do you know the size of the tank, out of curiosity, by chance?
I would guess it's 1,000, but
Yeah,
I'm not
it
sure.
mentions it in
I
here.
mean, I saw where the report indicated
Yeah,
1,000 gallons was pumped, but it actually
No, it was the,
state the actual size of the tank, so I was curious if that was the max amount that the tank was
1,000
pretty
gallon.
full.
Okay.
And they pump
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000, but
Well, yeah,
that tells the amount that they pumped, but I was curious the size of the tank. So was the tank any larger than that, or was it a 1,000-gallon tank?
Well, it was pretty
just curious.
close to being, you know,
yeah, I'm
to
gonna
the
say maybe
sludge going,
1,000
right,
gallon tank.
yeah.
So maybe you're pumping 970
900.
gallons,
Yep.
980 gallons. I mean, there is some airspace.
Yep.
If it hasn't been plugged, but
I was curious, so it could have been a 1,500, but 1,000 was only required to be pumped out. There was some headroom. So basically what you're saying is it was pretty filled
yes.
to the max.
Yeah.
And what you did yesterday, was that anything that Rodenheiser had looked at when they were out trying to help with resolving your problem with the, as far as clearing plugs or clearing lines internally, or was it all their work outside, or?
So, there's Rodenheiser outside and then there's Rodenheiser inside.
Okay,
Okay. And so Rodenheiser did a nice job on the outside. And then there's Rodenheiser inside, and they were fixing like some of the toilets and some of the lines. There is a gray water line that runs from the wash machine and the back sink. There's a wash sink that used to run, that runs out in a 2-inch, like a 2-inch PVC pipe that goes out to, I would assume it's a dry well. I haven't looked it up yet. I cleaned that pipe out and got a lot of debris out of that pipe a while back. So, but the plan would be to take that gray water pipe and tee it into the septic system. So,
Yeah.
so,
Different decades, different
Mhm.
ways of doing things.
yeah, so I've contacted a plumber so he can pull a permit and so we can get that gray water pipe moved over into the septic system.
Any questions for us?
No, I just want to say thanks. It's been very nice working with Colleen.
Thank you.
And you guys have been great.
Well, thank you. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Feel free to call Jack
Yep,
in the office, if you have any questions or you run into any roadblocks.
okay.
And pleasure seeing you, and I hope we don't have to see you too soon again.
Yeah, yeah.
One of those situations.
well, I
Yeah.
hope our other agents, health agents, were just as great as Colleen.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, Danielle, right, Dan?
So,
No, I just want to thank you
I'm
too,
sure.
and I have no doubt that with the remaining items that Jay will work diligently to bring the property into compliance. I mean, he went above and beyond in the last 2 days. And
Yeah,
to,
you worked hard. I can
absolutely,
see the
there's no
pictures.
doubt,
Oh, you
there's no
definitely see
doubt about it.
differences, even in the reports, the response was
Eager
great.
to comply.
So it's, things happen on properties, and we're all about just trying to help those and people responsive, and
mm,
so that's the big thing, so.
It was- yeah.
yeah, well, we want to make it right.
Yeah.
Part of what we do every day is we make it right or we don't do it at all.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how we work on the cars, so. That's the right thing to do.
And
Thank you.
I do just want to note that I did speak with the caregiver live-in tenant yesterday, invited her to tonight's Board of Health meeting while we're having it tonight. And I don't believe she is on tonight to respond to the property incidents. If you're on, Tara, could you please let us know? So I'm going to suggest that she is not attending tonight's meeting.
Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate
you.
that. Yep.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. I'll be talking to you.
All right, great. And you'll send me or get me a copy
She'll
of
get a
that
copy of
list.
this
Yeah,
report.
that'd be
Yep,
great.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely will. Yep, and I'll follow up with you too.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
coming in.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you all. Nice to meet you guys.
You as
Same
well.
here.
Have a good night.
Yep.
So back to the agenda of number 1.
Yeah, so let's jump back.
Oh, Dan, well, I want to thank you for joining tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Dan.
Have a good night.
that all we
Thank
needed
you.
for? Just that one, that's all we needed him for? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
All right, so we will jump back to part-time health agent position update. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, well,
It's like we put the cart before
That's
the
all
horse,
right.
but
That's all right.
Welcome. Thank you so much for, joining the team.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. It's a-
Appreciate your enthusiasm and your experience. And,
Absolutely.
Here's a perfect situation
Mm.
why we needed to get that position filled.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that, we can help a resident with a problem,
Yes.
and give them guidance to, get things back on track.
Yes.
I was gonna say, well, for those, welcome. I had
Thank you.
informally welcomed her yesterday
Yes.
when I saw her in the office, so welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. And just for for the audience that's out there, maybe if you want to take a minute to kind of tell folks a little bit about yourself, about your history and your experience in the field of the role of health agent, full information.
I've worked in the health field through another municipality for 28 years. I have a lot of experience. I started actually in Jack's position, and then I became the health agent about 4 years ago, just before the pandemic. So if you want to talk about baptism by fire,
Yeah.
that was the baptism by fire. And it's been a pleasure. I love working in small towns because I love working directly with residents, like the resident that was here today. It's always very satisfying to know that because that's what we're here for, that we can offer this type of assistance and understanding to the residents. And I enjoy working with the food establishments and just the other different offices in the towns. And like I said, I've had 28 years of experience doing that, and I pride myself on that experience.
Excellent. Awesome.
Any comments, Jack?
I've been working with Colleen all week, last week and all week this week. I love having her. She's a great wealth of knowledge for me. She's a great assistance to us and really glad to have her here.
Thanks. You guys have been great. It's been so very, very warm welcome, and it's much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Well, and, the Jack and my fellow board members, we're here to help you
Hmm.
with whatever help you need. There is a separation
Yes.
between us because there has to be. And do what you gotta do, and we're here to back you up.
I look forward to it. I
The
do.
enforcer,
Yeah, no, I look forward to, I look
but
forward
in a
to it.
nice way.
As a team, that's what we have to do as a team. The line of communication, the circle of communication has to be consistent
Yeah.
in order for us to be able to assist anybody. We all need to communicate with each other.
I think what was great about, in talking with Colleen in the past and in follow-up conversations, that her view of how to go about being a health agent falls in line with, I think for the most part, how we as a board kind of view it as well.
Mhm.
Basically here to try to help folks who have issues, not about, being a hard blank
Mhm.
type of, thing.
First
to
and
put the
foremost.
thumb down. We're just here to try to help with issues that they might have and kind of help bring them into compliance and do it in the best and, nicest manner possible, right?
Absolutely.
Just education, help them understand, and that's, we're all on the same page on this. That's great.
Yeah, teaching opportunities. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
Teaching opportunities,
Yeah.
opportunities, teach, sit down, go over things, have a conversation about it. Have them, make sure that they understand.
Mhm.
So moving forward, we've addressed that issue. If there's another issue, we're gonna follow the same format.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, I know we have a couple of folks on the call at this point. Any individual have any questions or comments so far? Feel free to raise your hand or speak up. Nope, not seeing anything yet. Okay, we'll continue.
All right, item number 2, resident on Northbridge Street septic system update. I'll take this one. I did receive a message from Jack that the resident requested a phone call. I had a very respectable phone call with the gentleman last night. The gentleman, has been in contact with Gibson Septic Pumping. He understands that he needs to pump the cesspool, right now, according to the paperwork, once a month. He mentioned to me that part of the cover had cracked and fallen in,
Oh,
and he didn't repair it. The other half fell in with some loom. So he is going to, he had a plan to repair the cover, and I suggested that he talk with the septic pumper and collaborate with him.
mhm.
I said, they know their business, they know what, can be done to repair the cover. Uh, don't take it on yourself. And he was very willing to do that. He also told me that he was interviewing engineers to design a new system.
Perfect.
And we talked a little bit about some of the local engineers and some of the local contractors. And Jack said he was already in contact with a local septic installer that's licensed in Mendon. I asked him to keep the office updated
Mhm.
on what he was doing. I asked him to make sure that the septic hauler knew that he needed to submit the pumping record right away. I said, that way there, we know that things are progressing.
Mhm.
So I said, just follow the letter. And he was more than willing to do that.
Great.
He's not there often. He works, he's got two jobs going right now, one on the vineyard and one in Hingham. So it sounds like there are days at a time that he's not physically at the property. The tenant downstairs that issued the original complaint is supposed to be leaving this week. I told him that was a good thing because that will decrease the flow going to the cesspool.
Mhm.
He did say that when he does rent it out, he always rents it out to a single person. So he's aware that the system is weak, or as our engineer determined, the system is in failure.
Mhm.
And the lines of communication between the Board of Health now and the property owner are open.
Mhm.
So I think we've turned the page
Good.
and everybody knows what needs to be done to get this taken care of.
So is he gonna comply with the original letter outline, or have we modified that? But
To
the
my
original letter
knowledge, that
outline-
is what's in the original letter.
So he's gonna follow, he knows to follow that.
Right. The system has to be pumped. The system has to be designed and installed.
Within the timeframes that we set forth already.
To my knowledge, I physically dropped the envelope off in his mailbox and he acknowledged receipt of it.
Okay,
I did take a picture. The mailbox door is missing and number 10, the address is written on it. I took a picture. It's not the greatest picture, but he acknowledged receipt of it. He wants to work with us.
out of curiosity, did he acknowledge reading it or just receiving it?
Oh, no, he read it.
He read it. Good.
Yeah, no, he read it. And he, like I said, he's aware that the cover was deteriorating, things like that.
I'm just a little dismayed at the original communication you put forth to our office.
No, I agree, and he apologized for that.
You did.
Yes, he did. He apologized to myself and to Jack.
Okay.
And he said something about a phone number having a 978 exchange and
Which
maybe,
was Danielle, the health agent's work
Oh,
cell
right.
phone.
okay, and maybe
Yep.
a message.
And he thought he was being scammed.
Okay,
But now, like I said, it might have taken a little to get this going.
Yep.
But it seems as though we're on the right track.
Mhm.
And, obviously, we're gonna track his progress.
Yep.
Because we're gonna be getting those pumping records. We should actually get a report, not just a pumping record, but if the pumper is going to repair the cover or suggest repairs from someone else, that should be in the report.
Oh, John Gibson is, I've known him for a long time, and he's also a Title V inspector.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that he has educated the property owner on what he needs to do. And maybe that might be part of, him realizing that, he needs to work with the board. But I'm sure John Gibson will take it, will we'll tell him what he needs to do.
Yeah, no, I'm confident at this point that the lines of communication are open,
Glad to hear.
flowing in both directions.
Excellent.
So we should be good to go on that one.
All right.
All right. Number 3. Mendon Old Landfill Agreement Update.
All right, so the last that we had on the update was that Kara sent back a red line agreement to Atlas's attorneys. Attorneys from Atlas sent us the finalized version for Karis to review. And I'm pleased to say that Karis has approved this current version of the agreement for the landfill.
Oh, awesome.
So Karis Town Council is good with this agreement.
Okay.
So just a matter of the board's review and signature.
Said Atlas is the company that's going to be monitoring it.
Correct.
Yeah, we, just background information, in general, Atlas is the company that we've been using for years, to handle the testing at
Mhm.
the old Mendon landfill. And the office that we had been working with was based out of Rhode Island. That is gonna change, because in addition to the testing that they do for us with the groundwater and the solid waste, the gas monitoring.
Mhm.
A few years back, we became aware that there was a new requirement that the state put out with regard to performing a inspection.
Mhm.
And the requirement is every 2 years, there has to be an inspection done of the landfill, at least one that has to be formally done and reported. Whether or not we would opt to do one every year, I guess that would be an internal decision, but to meet the minimum requirement of the state, it's every 2 years. I guess this went into effect sometime back in 2014 or so. We actually didn't become aware of it until like 2018, just doing some follow-up on this whole landfill issue. And then COVID hit, things got put on the back burner. So now it's come back around again. So we're technically, as far as we're concerned, we're actually a little bit behind in our time frame. So we've been working with Atlas here. We did, and actually I've had communications with DEP on it as well. And when I communicated with the Atlas office out of Rhode Island, they referred us to an office in Springfield. We actually have people on staff who are certified inspectors.
Mhm.
So what's going to happen moving forward is all the testing as well as inspecting will move from Rhode Island to the Springfield office. So their office will actually take over the whole, all the pieces
Mhm.
together, as opposed to just doing testing out of the Rhode Island group and then having Springfield involved with the inspection part.
Right.
So it kind of works out. So this is how this came about with, they put forth this agreement that they wanted to create between us and their office for inspecting and so forth. But
Thank
that's-
you.
That's the history on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
for the update.
Yep.
Tom's been working for a long time on trying to get our cost reduced.
Mhm.
So there are some things that we have to do in order to get to that level. Unfortunately, the testing may go on forever.
Mhm.
Yeah, and speaking with, I was working with Jim McQuaid.
Yeah.
You know Jim?
Yes.
Nice, great guy.
He is.
He had, he's the one that actually indicated that because of all the changes that have taken place environmentally over the years, guidelines have only become more stringent, and there've been more of them in recent years than there used to be.
Mhm.
So, because when I reached out to him because I happened to be looking at our contract or some documents I had come across a few years ago. And at the time, it was described as being a 30-year arrangement,
Mhm.
which had actually gone past when I had reached them.
Mm.
So I thought, well, wait a minute, 30 years are up here. Maybe we don't need to do any more testing. So that led to the introduction with Jim, and he explained that, chances are that you're probably always going to have to do some kind of testing, at least from a water perspective. One of the things that we may be able to remove or eliminate is the gas monitoring
Mhm.
portion, because I think our reports have been very, very favorable consistently over a number of years.
Mhm.
But now what's gonna happen with this agreement being signed with Atlas is they're gonna process the paperwork and submit the formal application to DEP to review and make the decision to either say yay or nay to that reduction or elimination of
Mhm.
that portion of testing. So that's what we're hoping for. Don't know how long that will take, but
Oh.
at least we're on a
We're getting there.
making. we're
Right,
getting-
one-
getting there.
yeah,
We're making
moving
progress.
forward, forward progress.
Yeah, forward
That's all that
progress.
matters.
Absolutely.
Forward progress.
Yep.
All right, so that's signed and been blessed by
Town council.
Town council, so we're good to go.
That's great, yeah.
All right, E.L. Harvey contract update.
Update is that E.L. Harvey's attorneys have not sent us a new contract yet, so it's still in their hands.
Well, they're picking up our trash. Okay, so. Not ready yet. All right, trash recycling total delivery update.
All right, so the trash total delivery update from July 10th through the 15th. E.L. Harvey has contracted with a third party called Sierra Container to provide all paid subscribers at that time of July 5th, which was the list I had to provide E.L. Harvey of paid subscribers, the address of those who have paid their trash invoice for the first fiscal year of 2024. Have been delivered. They completed their delivery on Friday, I believe was July 22nd, 21st. I'm sorry. Delivery was done July 10th through July 14th, so delivery was done on July 14th. I have been getting some calls of people that have not received their containers from the Sierra Company container. I have provided the list to E.L. Harvey. There's probably about 25 addresses that said they did not get delivered. So E.L. Harvey will be delivering them sometime next week or the week after, but Mike is on vacation this week and next week.
Okay.
So I just want to provide an update on that.
All right. Trash is still being.
Trash is
picked up.
still being picked up. What is happening
Still
is
have their new containers.
if they don't have their new containers, I'm providing E.L. Harvey the still non-pickup list. But I have put a PU for pickup next to the addresses. So when Phil drives up and like, hey, they don't have E.L. Harvey toters. Oh, wait a minute, they haven't received them yet. The address is on the list for PU for pickup. He takes their trash and recycling. So that way, they're still getting services.
Okay. A little added info. So when we were finding that certain residents weren't getting their toters, I reached out to Mike. Because we have a list apparently that was created by Sierra,
Correct.
where they had matched up by serial number, which every toter has a serial number on it,
Right.
where it was supposedly delivered to. But the concern I raised, when we had the issues with toters not being delivered, a couple of possibilities that were presented as possible reasons why did not include the possibility that maybe there might have been some inaccuracies with what we were being given. So I had asked Mike about the opportunity, or if it was possible, to actually ride with Bill as a ride along to actually validate the list that we have to basically do a cross-reference check of serial numbers to households. Because we're sort of taking the word for it that's accurate. And he said that could be a possibility. He says that there's only a few. He'd be happy to have Phil, take a look and do some checking for us. He said if you did actually want to do that, so you probably have to get an approval because of course the liability for us to do that, which I understood. And I wouldn't want Phil to have to be doing that for all these residents.
Right.
My goal was to actually try to validate if what we had in hand was accurate. But knowing that we only had a few at the time, and Mike was willing to have Phil kind of step in and help out the cause, I just kind of backed off that suggestion. Since then, we've actually had one or two who recently reported not getting toters or reported, is it getting?
Getting toters, but not the serial numbers that we provided on the list.
Right. So it goes to my desire to want to validate what was on the list. So now we have a confirmed situation where we know what Sierra says they didn't do correctly, at least on a couple locations. So it's, at this point, for me, it's very hard for me to trust that the rest of that list is accurate. As far as serial numbers relating to residence addresses.
Right, and that would be, that'd be a 5-day project.
Well, it would be. And not that it necessarily matters to us as a board. Our overall concern is that the residents get their totems.
Correct.
Right.
As to whether or not the serial numbers are accurate, I was saying to Jack, is more of an issue or potentially an issue for E.L. Harvey. So if they're going to collect product for some reason, will that be a concern if that list is not accurate? But that's something that E.L. Harvey would have, I would think, be addressing with the vendor they hired
Right.
to do the distribution.
I did see Sierra out there. I believe there were 3 gentlemen. One was a driver and had a clipboard, and the other 2 guys were hopping on and off the trailer and I believe assembling the wheels. Because I don't think they come on the trailer stacked.
Yeah.
And I don't think with the wheels on, you could stack them one inside.
Oh,
the
right,
other,
right,
Right.
yeah,
Right?
yep.
So, they were 2 younger guys hustling. And I think the driver was driving and trying to keep the paperwork.
Okay, yep,
And I did observe him, on my street the day that I got mine. Because I knew they were gonna have a problem next door to me because the address that is the subscriber is 181, but the mailbox says 179.
we have a few of those.
Yeah, we have a few of those.
Yeah,
So even though 181 is there, they weren't gonna know. And sure enough, they ran up the street, continued on. When they doubled back to do the other side of the street, they looked at me and said, "Hey, where's 181?" I said, "Right there." So, well, see that red house? I said, "Take my word for it. That's 181." So they left, 2 toters. Now, I mean, the serial numbers on those things are pretty big.
Okay.
So obviously it's not the whole number that they're keeping track of.
yeah, it's like the last few digits.
Yeah,
I have no idea. They're 4 digits long.
yeah,
Well,
Serial
there's,
number's much longer.
yeah, there's letters and numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit on there. It's like yay big.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I could see in some issues sometimes if things didn't get recorded correctly when they're trying to hustle and do everything that needed to be done to get them out.
and again, not that I believe it's our concern or we have an issue. I think it would only be if E.L. Harvey potentially, but again, our goal is to make sure our residents get
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
the totals.
Correct.
Do we get any calls from people that got them that shouldn't have get?
No. But I have been behind, like I was telling Todd maybe a few weeks ago when this first started. I'm catching people that were not catching people, but finding people that were getting trash service that was on the non-pickup list. And I guess E.L. Harvey was generous to pick up their trash for a few months before they got caught.
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm sorry, but your account wasn't active, but I can activate you now.
How many subscribers total do we have this year?
About 1,800.
All right, so pretty consistent to what we had previously or?
I'm
up?
probably gonna add about maybe 20 more
Okay,
for new subscribers.
okay. Since the toters and the contract changed, anybody calling in that wants to sign up?
Yeah, I've got a few subscribers that wanted to sign up because they realize my recycling wasn't picked up. I'm like, well, you have to be a town subscriber of trash and recycling. Yeah, I'll do it. That's fine.
We got a few of those.
Yeah.
That were recycle only at one time, because we offered recycling to everybody,
Mhm.
whether they were on the trash program or not. Which is just a benefit for the whole recycling concept.
Mhm.
This time around, we made it that you had to be a subscriber to the program in order to benefit from getting your recyclables pickup.
Well, at $110 a
That's
ton
right,
to dispose of them, it's
that's
not
right.
free anymore.
No, it's
Nope.
not free anymore.
No, not at all.
Be interested to see that first round of bills that we
Yeah,
get for that. With the cost.
coming soon. Yeah.
Okay, so all in all, people are adjusting. I
Yes.
know I'm still figuring out my method,
Mhm.
where I have a long driveway as to how I'm gonna handle things. I did see some people that had, the recycling toter, the trash toter, and one of their own toters, which is acceptable, right? As long as it's in a toter type container.
Correct.
So I'm sure it's gonna be a couple of weeks for everybody to, get the hang of it.
Mhm.
All right, before we move on, we do have a BOH consideration on the recycling. Resident is considering paying on her own to get extra recycling. I told her that was not a possibility. But she was happy to hear that the town was moving forward with automated trash collection, but would like what Hopedale was doing with the 96 recycling toter. Where Mendon now has a 65-gallon recycling toter. And again, with Mike Sesband and Phil from EL Harvey, they're the ones that have been servicing the town for 5 years. And they recommended the 65-gallon toter would have been sufficient for the majority of the residents in the town of Mendon. He thought 96 gallons would have been an overkill for Mendon on a weekly basis.
Well, probably from an average perspective, that's probably true. I actually, at the 65-gallon toter, I'm actually probably gonna be putting out my recycled toter once every 2 weeks.
I'm in the same position. I didn't put it out this week and my wife goes, how come you didn't put it out this week? I said, I don't have anything, but it's gonna be empty.
Yeah,
Well, I have to give, and I'll do this publicly in the meeting, I have to give kudos to my wife because she actually put toters out this week for me. So thank you, Jean. And she actually put out the recycle one, but it didn't need to be because there was hardly anything in it.
Yeah,
But you get automatically used to putting out.
Yep.
mine would have been so light that if a big truck went by, my total would have blown over.
would have gone over.
That's how light it was.
So I guess, it's a valid concern. I guess I like the fact that they're doing so much recycling. But that's a nice thing.
The majority of the calls I do get about getting more recycling in Mendon is the cardboard. We live in an Amazon world. I get a lot of deliveries from Amazon. But I believe if they cut it up by the 2x2 that EL Harvey recommends in the recycling tote. But Colleen was mentioning the Blackstone Valley.
Right, the regional recycling center.
I didn't even know that was an option.
They
Now-
can take the cardboard up there.
For out of town residents,
$40 non-resident sticker. And that you can use that center. They have, yard waste and brush drop off up there. Your regular recycling,
yeah, I printed the
curbside,
menu and I'm
Yep.
trying to remember. If you're a non-resident, was there a charge for recycling?
$40 sticker, non-resident sticker
Okay,
annually,
But it's good for a year.
1 year. Yep.
Okay, so at this time, I would maybe suggest that to this resident as far as getting rid of recycling above and beyond the 65-gallon.
Mhm.
That's an option.
Mhm.
Um,
Is this the only resident that we have concerned about needing a bigger?
No, I've received calls throughout since July 1st about the recycling only being one container of 65-gallon.
The difference with Hopedale, just for the record, for the resident also, is that Hopedale curbside trash and recycling program is part of the tax base. It's paid through the general fund, so it's not a subscriber program. So your program is a subscriber program, so it's a little bit different. So I don't know that that's, a fair comparison.
Well, I mean, the method of payment is different, but the service style is the same.
Mhm.
But what I'm hearing is that Hopedale, though, they apparently do the 96-gallon as the constant around the town
for recycling.
for recycling. And I'm assuming it's the 65 for the trash,
Yes.
but they do a 96 for the recycle bin.
My concern is, and obviously I haven't, spoke with this resident. A lot of recycling is good if it's quality, recycling, if it's not quality recycling. And unfortunately, in my travels, I see plastic containers that still have residue in them and things like that. So I know that that is contaminating the recycling.
Mhm.
We need good quality recycling, especially at a estimate of $110 a ton to dispose of it.
Yes.
So I don't want to discourage anybody from recycling. But I question the quality of the recycling, which is something that got us in trouble a long, long time ago. And why part of the reason China put restrictions on what we were sending them, because it wasn't good quality.
Correct.
And that kind of created and turned the whole recycling world upside down when you have barges full of junk.
Mhm.
And their industry, changed because they made that, the test, so restrictive. They knew they were basically gonna be turning away huge cargo ships worth of,
Mhm.
but so their economy changed where they didn't need to take in that component anymore as well.
Or the volume that they.
Or the volume of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too, with, not to interrupt, but with regards to the 65-gallon toter is we could say to the residents, use the toter for, for your commingled, your plastics, your glass, your metal, and put your cardboard to the side and as an option, bring it to the recycling center in Blackstone, or fit whatever you can into your toter once you have all your commingled in there, whatever you have, the surplus that you have left. The Blackstone Valley Regional Recycling Center is open on Thursdays and Saturdays from 8 to noon. And they'll take all the cardboard because they bale the cardboard right there on site.
Right, right. I've
And
seen
then
the
we
bill.
sell it to, on the commodities market.
I mean, there's, so I could play devil's advocate a couple of ways on this topic. One would be that because it's subscriber based, they're paying the same as everybody else
Mhm.
for the service that they're getting, right, at curbside, for recycle and trash. So it's nice that there's another alternative to go to Blackstone, but it's an extra step that that resident would need to take to dispose of their recycling, something that we have been promoting for a number of years to be good stewards, right? So we'd be asking them to do something addition, plus incur an extra expense to get it, a non-resident sticker for $40. Much like we have some situations where some residents have a problem with the standard size that we put to this program. We have a couple of folks on the senior side who have, example being long driveways, where they would used to put their trash in the back of their truck with the smaller barrels, drive it down to the end and take it out. What we've gotten feedback from certain folks is that that's going to be a problem to pick up the 65 ones, put them in the truck and unload them at the bottom. So I think for those few people, I think Gail Harvey's working with us to make some accommodations.
Yes, correct.
So I'm just wondering, and not that I want to see everybody on the program say something like, well, if they can do it, I can do it type of thing. But what about knowing there's a legitimate situation where somebody has X amount of recycling every week that they've consistently been putting out a lot, and Phil can verify this, 'cause he's our regular driver,
Mhm.
knowing the residents. Is it true that they consistently put out quite a bit of recycling? Would maybe justify maybe going to E.L. Harvey and saying, we have a resident or two here that are really have a lot of recycling, large families. And could we possibly consider substituting for those situations the 96 for the 65? Would they even be willing to do that?
Well, we won't know unless we ask the question.
Would that be a thought? I mean, does that sound like a,
Well, I guess if we ask the question, we know if we have an alternative.
right?
The other thing might be to get maybe the availability to get this person a second 65-gallon recycling tote.
Yeah.
Or the availability of a second, whether resident's gonna have to purchase it.
Mhm.
Or whether we could provide them with it. So I guess we have a couple of questions to ask in a couple of different ways.
I know E.L. Harvey will not provide a second toter without them tracking it. He said E.L. Harvey will not say, all right, this resident has a second recycling toter, this resident doesn't type of thing. He
Okay,
goes,
tracking it, how,
like, who's gonna pay for it?
the toter?
The extra recycling.
Well, obviously, we would be paying for the tonnage. But it's my understanding that the toter has a cost.
Mhm.
So I guess we have to kind of ask those questions. But now, I think in order to give this person some feedback, I would mention the Blackstone Recycling Center. So that they could at least look into it and see if that fits into their plan. But the other question I see here, this is sort of a two-parter. They're saying that the trash barely fit in the 65. We're a family of 5. The trash was light this week and it barely fit. So obviously they don't understand that they have the option of putting out another 65-gallon toter, either purchased through Hobby or of their own
Mhm.
to accommodate the trash side. So
Mhm,
this, unfortunately, this resident has 2 issues.
mhm.
So that we have the answer for. On the trash side, we know that they can either purchase another toter from E.L. Harvey for trash. And they're allowed to put another one out under our program. Right?
Yes.
Or if they have a 65-gallon toter, they can use that to put out another 65 gallons of trash. So that's, the trash side's almost an easier answer than the recycling side. So let's give this person some feedback. I
Okay.
know my wife has read the Mendon page. And I know some of the things that she's seen, like there are some residents where it's an older couple.
Mhm.
And they're never gonna fill those 65-gallon toters on the trash side. Or
Oh,
on
the recycling side, yeah.
Fortunately, I know a couple situations in their driveways are short. So they're very capable of wheeling them down there, but they'll never fill them.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't generate that volume. It's very hard to get a one size fits all
Oh,
for every situation we have in
absolutely.
town. We kind of, had to pick one that
Yeah.
would fit the majority.
Well, we did initially, we did originally look to go or consider the 96-gallon cycle. But that wasn't what came back from, Harvey.
Right, as far as what was available, and again, we're looking at the unfortunate world of recycling, where the cost of recycling, the cost of doing good costs more.
Absolutely.
And to your point, we're gonna have to watch that recycling bill. Which we used to get some money back for cardboard and things like
Yeah.
that every once in a while. We're gonna have to watch that bill close. Make sure that, everything that has been guesstimated as to how the market should perform is performing that way so that we have enough money to pay for it.
Mhm.
But I would say that that's the answer to this resident for now. Until we ask those questions as to whether another recycling toter is available or whether there's availability of a larger one for this resident or any other residents that might need one. But again, I hope that the resident is putting out quality recycling. And it's not ending up getting sorted out as trash.
Yeah.
Point. But please, give some feedback.
Yep, I will do that tomorrow morning when I get into work.
Any other people that might need feedback?
No, I've been very straightforward, giving them the options of the two trash barrel toters, one on their own, from like a Lowe's or a Home Depot.
Yeah,
So
as
they're
long
happy
as
with
it's a
that.
toter style that can be picked up with the mechanical arm.
Correct.
Someone did say something to me about the gentleman with the 2,500 foot driveway, uh,
Crestview?
Genesi.
Yeah,
Stop
Chinese, yeah,
sign mast.
yeah, Chinese.
It sounds as though he talked maybe with a handyman to build a shed
A lot of people are doing that.
type
I
structure.
see them, yeah.
Yeah, I had a very nice conversation with him a few weeks ago. I even offered to, when the toters were delivered, to bring them to his house for him, so, but, we had a very nice discussion and tried to brainstorm on how we could solve, his situation. The landscaper that does his snow plowing, I said, have a conversation with him. The left side of the driveway might be better for him when he plows than the right side of the driveway, get some feedback.
Yep.
So that, you're good for all seasons, and very agreeable gentleman, to trying to find a way that, he could fit into the program and, we could make it as painless as possible, getting, into a new system.
I see a lot of people building those little, like a little enclosure for they come down their driveway like once a week, fill them up, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then put them to the curb.
Yeah. Yeah, bring them the last.
Yeah, I'm
few
seeing
feet.
more and more of those.
Hi, Karen, I saw that you had your hand raised. Would you want to comment on this topic?
Yeah, I was just gonna comment on Tony Chinese. He did not get his trash picked up this week, unfortunately, but he said that the shed would be ready next week. I'm hoping that's so. If not, could he have his trash picked up until he can get the shed built?
No, he should still be getting his trash picked up regardless.
No, he didn't get it picked up this week, and he was in a little bit of a panic.
All right, I will look into that for him tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No, thank you. You have his
Welcome.
address, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember what number Steinmast.
I have a database though.
Okay,
What's the address?
Steinmast, it's way, almost in Northbridge.
Oh, okay.
Was it West River Road?
Mhm.
Off of Northbridge Road,
Yeah.
all the way down the end. Like I said, he's almost on the town line. His driveway, he sent us a picture. His driveway's 2,500 feet.
Okay.
But very nice gentleman. All right,
See, it's like, what's the pickup date? What's the pickup, what's day of the week is that pickup, Karen?
I believe it was today.
Today, okay.
Yeah, he posted on the site today that it wasn't picked up. I run that Mendon site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Good on that topic for now.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll see that topic again until we get everything worked out.
Mhm.
Before we move, just one notation, just for the general public, we do have one more day next Saturday for the pickup of the old barrels. So for those that might be listening or listen to the recording, next Saturday will be the Saturday coming will be another opportunity for coming down to the highway barn to dispose of your old barrels and old, recycle bins. We had a great, more than great turnout last week, just to kind of FYI. Matter of fact, we filled the dumpster that was provided. And, you were there, you saw how much we had to put off to the side. And as an FYI to that, I did talk to John Dudley, and he said we are going to need to have that dumpster emptied before it could be used again. So Jack has already reached out to Harvey to come in. The thought was that maybe once they crushed it down, there'd be room, but John's saying no. So it's gonna have to be tipped twice.
Okay, so they'll do a swap out. They'll drop off an empty and pick up the full one.
I'm assuming that's.
Mike said that they'd probably be tomorrow, he said,
Yeah, okay,
and then let John Dudley know it'd be tomorrow.
yeah, beautiful, excellent. So,
Yeah. And it was nice seeing and having an opportunity to talk to some residents that we don't see on a regular basis. We had
Oh, yeah.
a chance to ask how they like the new trash program and get some feedback.
Yeah.
So feel free just to come down and say hi to us.
It was actually kind of amazing how many good barrels people were actually
Yeah.
trading in.
Hmm.
And it was, I have to thank the residents for that because our Parks Department had gone down and they're gonna benefit from using a few of those barrels
Awesome.
at different places and for events that we might have that the parks does clean up for to accommodate trash that gets produced. So
Yeah, I mean, going to the baseball game and saying, hey, that looks like my old trash bag.
It
you
is.
know?
We recycled it.
Exactly.
we thank the residents for that.
All right, moving on. Tobacco enforcement update.
All right, Colin, I'm gonna leave that up to you.
I spoke with Joan, last Thursday, maybe. And, I asked her, about Mendon's participation in the grant. And she said that unfortunately that we couldn't participate in the grant, would have to wait until the grant became available again. But she does have, a couple of, people that are trained in tobacco compliance checks. She was going to check with them. I asked her to get back to me with their contact information and what the cost would be in order to have a compliance check in Mendon. She asked for a few days. She was taking some time off. And so I anticipate speaking with her probably like the beginning of the week. I know Joan, I'm sure she'll get back to me as soon as she can, but she had said that there were two, what was that woman's name?
Jody Briganti.
Yep, and then she mentioned somebody else though, and they have the youth already trained to go in to do the compliance checks. So I thought that maybe we would just wait to, for her to get back to us, see what that cost is gonna be, and then the board can discuss it.
Absolutely, and I believe Jody already did the educational component. So, she's familiar with our convenience stores, et
The town
cetera.
itself, yeah.
So if she were available, that would be great, but, great, so that's ongoing.
Yes, and, we'll leave it as an agenda item so that
Absolutely.
you guys can
And the other
discuss
thing
it.
is, if there's any way to find out when that next grant opportunity comes available.
She's gonna send me the information.
Okay, good.
And we can write it. I've written them. And, I'm pretty positive that we can do it.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't want to miss the opportunity.
Mm-mm.
So I'll make sure that we, keep that door open. All right, very good. Ongoing.
All right, number 7.
Yeah, discussion on previous Board of Selectmen meeting PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, so what that's about, I had asked to have that added. The Board of Selectmen, Select Board, met last week and they had a couple of gentlemen speak from the Collins Center. And the discussion had to do with looking at potential modifications to how certain departments currently organized or run compared to what they may look to do in the future. And one of those elements had to do with the trash recycle program as it's run now versus what they may be considering to do in the future. So in speaking with Mike Morale last week, he had mentioned it. He thought it might be a good idea for the Board of Health to view that presentation portion of the meeting to get an idea of what's being presented and to maybe get any follow-up input or our thoughts on what was discussed in that presentation. So that was essentially it. So the plan would be, not that we had to view the whole presentation itself, but I think there were certain areas that Jack's been through it once already that, so the goal would be here to kind of look at what they're talking about.
Is this something that the Board of Selectmen requested, or is this something that the Collins Center recommended?
It was actually suggested by Mike that we may want to incorporate it into our next meeting. Just to basically, the way to do it would be just simply view what they saw from a presentation perspective, so that we're hearing the exact same thing that was presented to them.
Okay,
And he thought there might be, just from an FYI perspective, to be informed as to what the select board may be considering, or at least what's being presented as options to, that could potentially change how things are being done now.
Okay,
Educational more than anything.
basically it.
I had a chance to view it myself, previously with Jack. My view is, personally, I'm not married to the trash recycle program, to be honest with you. I kind of concur that there are a lot of other aspects, and Colleen could probably, support this. There's a lot of other areas of health that a Board of Health could probably put more focus on, as opposed to, time away handling the trash recycle program, as extensive as we have. We'd probably break it down time ways. Jack would probably be able to tell
Well,
us. how
But this,
much time.
about half my day is dealing with trash.
Right.
It's definitely front loaded when you're doing a contract, and that year before the contract expires, and maybe 3 or 4 months into the new contract,
Mhm.
until everybody gets on board and we get used to whatever changes we had to adapt to it. It's definitely front loaded.
Yeah,
After that, it seems to
no, it's easy.
work.
Yeah, you're just fielding potential, I guess, calls, possible complaints, and being someone has to jump in and follow up and get a hold of E.L. Harvey or reach out. But you're right, for the most part, once it's going, it goes along pretty well, and a lot of that is testament to E.L. Harvey. They've really done a very good job for us. Overall, we're very happy with their service. Every now and then you have a hiccup, but what doesn't have a hiccup? But they've always been there to address the problem, correct something, or modify, so. But overall, when you think about it, trash recycling is not maybe specifically, just a health issue. It's a function, as they kind of talked about, right? Trash not being handled correctly is a health issue. But the actual function of collecting and disposing of it, from a community perspective, I could see the, supporting the viewpoint that may be something that really the Board of Health may, want to potentially consider or go along with that idea of moving it elsewhere, if that's what gets decided. Obviously, you can see where they're going with that. They're talking about creating a different structure. We're looking at potentially creating a different structure from the highway. So they're talking about creating a DPW, which would be an all-encompassing Department of Public Works. And underneath that, are a lot of the functions that would fall under that.
You might have seen, it. I couldn't read it.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. I think Franklin has a DPW.
Yes.
Milford has a highway.
Right.
So,
Blackstone has a DPW, but the curbside trash and recycling program remains with the Board of Health.
So, and there's other variables here too. The other part of that conversation had to do with the appointment versus the elected. That could go either way. That's a little different than just moving the program. But obviously the folks in Collins are very much in the camp of appointing officials and letting one body be the elected representation for all aspects of the town. I don't know if I could personally support that. The one argument I will say for an appointed versus an elected type of a function is that you can, if it's an appointed position, look outside of the community for a candidate. Whereas an elected position, you have to be a resident of the community. So you're limited in the town of X number of people who might want to step forward to be elected for the position. So I understand the argument of the appointing, which is, I think, one of the reasons why for many years, the highway department surveyor was an elected position. And it just recently changed over to an appointed position. And I think the main reason the argument put forth was that, they could look at many different candidates from many different communities who might want to come in with experience to kind of take on that role. I would probably say that there's, the happy medium might actually be a potential of having an elected group that oversees an appointed person as a subset, not necessarily just one overall elected body solely being the select board, but still having multiple elected groups with, where they could pull in somebody, because there was still talk about it's an elected group still being involved in policy making, but just not implementing policy. It seemed like they were kind of favoring bringing in a person to actually do it. Although, to Jack's kudos, there's a very complimentary statement that was made when they said they
I
understood.
picked up on that.
We had a very,
Capable person.
individual. So I said to Jack, I said, that's a compliment to you.
Absolutely.
I'm trying.
You know what I mean? So, so there's some interesting, it was interesting concepts they're proposing on a
What-
couple of different
Do
levels.
we know what brought this about?
I don't
Who
know.
contracted with the Collins Center, or is this something that the previous administrator?
I
put in
don't know.
motion?
I don't know where it came from. Obviously, mindset or a thought to potentially look at restructuring the management of the town. Is basically what that's telling me. And again, there may be some merit to what's being said. But when you go fully to a completely appointed situation and you have one body that's doing the appointing, potentially, and I'm not saying it would be, but sometimes that appointment decision is reflective of, it's reflective of a smaller group of people. But you got a smaller number of people involved in processes, as opposed to continuing a collaboration of elected officials in a community, which is what I know we started. We haven't, as a town, really hit that. We've gotten going with it. We had, select board representatives coming to Board of Health meetings and to other meetings, which is great. It's wonderful. I hope to see that continue.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, our past representative was a select board member who is no longer on the board. So that gentleman had been at our last,
Oh,
3-4 months?
Yeah.
Of meetings.
yeah.
And other representatives of the select board went to other meetings, other groups, which is wonderful because it was a great feedback, because there were times when we were in meetings that this select board member had an answer for something we didn't know. We would have been, well, you might have to go, and they would
Right.
provide it because they had an overall knowledge of a lot of different areas. Very helpful. So,
Communication.
yeah, well, communication, collaboration. So got to keep that wheel turning. So personally, I would probably say that I think there's a combination, a balance between the elected and the appointed. But that's my initial.
I guess my marriage to the trash program is the fact that we put so much effort into it to try to give the subscribers the best value and the best service for the money. And it's a necessary service. You have to have trash pickup. You have to have recycling. So I guess if I didn't put so much time and effort into it, it would be easier to let it go.
Correct. I understand we put a lot of time into this program, a lot of thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not a trash expert. I've learned a lot, and we've had the fortune of having Mike Sussman to learn from and to understand what's going on in the world of trash.
Well, you just touched on an interesting point, because none of us on any of these boards are experts. We may be very knowledgeable people, but they're all part-time positions. No one is a full-time anything on any of these boards, select board, water, except for the full-time staff that works in the town hall, that we rely on, all the boards rely on. We rely on Jack, that position very heavily. And he goes out and he gathers the data. We analyze and we assess and we ask the questions. Same select board, they were asking questions of their other full-time town hall people to get information, right? So none of us are experts or full-time at it. We all have regular jobs. So we all have to rely on other people. We hope that they're just open to that concept of being able to analyze and always say, what if, what that, you know. So even if you were to go that, like I said, go that route of, you made everything but the select board appointed, you still got certain, now a group of people, as good of people and capable as they may be, they're still gonna have to be reaching out to get answers to groups they deal with. And in our case, Mike was our expert. We would ask questions of, right? And if there was something still missing, it's up to us as a board to continue asking the questions until we got good answers, right? And I think the key thing, as long as you have a group of people that are willing to keep asking the questions, thought processes, really thinking it through. You look at how long it has taken us to put certain regulations through, like tobacco. That took a long time.
Right. EJ was very passionate about that.
Yeah.
And that's part of what got it to the finish line.
We really looked at the rooster regulation pretty thoroughly. That was almost a year in the making. Dumpster regulations, that was a year or more in the making. Also that's probably a personal thing of yours, but all these things, as long as you're thinking them through, the group that has the oversight is thinking them through and asking the questions and, but overall, I think that question of whether you can put that to one body, one elected body and appoint everything else. I personally think there's a better balance between elected, creating the process, having somebody below to implement the policies, and then collaboration amongst those elected groups within the community of the town. Plus, the other thing is, it could be as a resident, the taxpayer, do I want to put that much power in a hands? It takes away the ability for the people to speak. And that's important for the people to have the opportunity to cast a vote and speak,
Have their voice be heard.
have their voice be heard,
Well, I know as an elected official and something I had never really thought of pursuing. It sort of just happened. We talked earlier about COVID. Now, when Missy was in the office and when it first began and everybody was trying to register online to get an appointment and things like that, it got to the point where I was knocking on my neighbor's doors. That, can I help you?
Yeah,
Can I help you? Get an
absolutely.
appointment?
Yep.
If you don't want to pursue it, that's fine. But if you're frustrated and you need help, give me your contact information. You're my neighbors. You're the, important people in my community. And I felt as an elected official that area was my responsibility to try to help my neighbors and community members get an appointment. Give me a number. If I'm working the clinic and at 7:30, they say they've got extra vaccines, I'll dial you up.
Yeah.
And it worked well. Again, being respectful of people's wishes and whether they, were for vaccines or not for vaccines, that none of that mattered. If
No.
you need help, I want to help you. But I think personally, if I was appointed to a position, I'd feel the same way. I'd feel as though I had a responsibility in that appointed position to look after my neighbors and my community members. So I don't know what's better. I know as far as like a highway surveyor, I have heard, because I grew up in, that it could be a popularity contest when it's elected.
Mhm.
And when it's elected, it doesn't necessarily mean that person has the expertise to do the job. It means they got elect their community, right? The majority elected them to that position. In a small community where a lot of people are related to each other, went to school together, whatever, I could see that maybe being a problem. I mean, I don't think Alan knew a lot about being the highway surveyor when he first started. But he was willing to learn. He was willing to take courses. He was willing to get certifications. It was an evolution for him to become qualified and good at that position. And maybe we were the right size that we could wait
Mhm.
for that expertise to happen.
Because plus two, back.
I don't know where we are now.
When he first started too, like I mentioned, the environmental changes that have happened in the state,
Mhm.
right? Changes have happened in all areas of operation in the state, including in highway DPW requirements,
Yeah,
stormwater
runoff.
management.
Yeah.
programs.
Yes.
I'd say that was a
Yes.
huge, huge thing that, and so those things didn't exist years and years ago. Basically, we were just concerned about keeping the roads clear and doing some paving, and there's been so much more, and Alan would be the first to tell you so, because he actually, I know at one point, a few years ago, when this came up, he was an advocate of switching the position to appointed. But just a lot more, there's a lot more to the job now. That job, a lot of jobs, Board of Health, a lot of different areas. You got,
Right, it's hard to keep up.
you know, health agent, I mean, been in the, doing it for 20-something years. So if you
28.
would think back, and we've heard this from Joyce Gilmore, who has been involved with health for years and years. Things that have come along that have changed more and more things to.
Just
know,
just the
yeah.
pandemic alone. I mean, I was saying, or, all the training that you went through for like, hurricanes and tornadoes and, you never even gave a pandemic a second thought.
Just didn't think we-
And then when it hit, you said, wow, all that training that I went through, none of it was for this. And a lot of us just adapted. I mean, I can tell you myself, the governor came on every Friday afternoon, and Department of Public Health was Tuesdays and Thursdays, the calls, and that's where you got your information from. Governor came on Friday and said, okay, this is what we want to happen. And it all trickled down to the locals, and that's what we did, right? We protected our community. We advised our community that we did the best that we could do.
It'll be interesting to see how that all, because
Yeah.
what little I could read looked like a huge bureaucratic structure. When I
Well-
was looking at all those boxes.
I think it wasn't so much huge, it seemed to be more condensed. So you basically, director at the top, and again, that was DPW structure only. But of course, those boxes indicated consolidation of what now are separate groups, departments, elected officials underneath the DPW structure. So it's a consolidation, a condensation. And again, I understand some of the merit given DPW and what they're about. They're about, utilities, different functions of a community, water, trash, all sorts of different areas. So I could understand that concept of, hey, maybe a DPW type of a format where those individuals have a broader education of all these different areas. Maybe that's a good thing to do, and then has the leader, and then filtering that down to incorporate these other groups. That could very well be. Again, there's just part of me says, well, I don't know if, if you, by eliminating the elected element of it, you could still, I think, have the potential, the elected element of it. But as I alluded to earlier, collaboration and communication amongst the various elected groups So you're making sure everybody's rolling in the same direction. And so a combination of the elected and individuals implementing, where where the elected's implementing a policy and being carried through by someone below. I mean, much like we have our administrative person here that does that for us on a regular basis.
Be interesting to see what happens.
So
Uh, I wish Joyce was here to give us her input.
well, it's up online, so we
Yeah,
can
we'll have
always,
to make sure that she's aware of it.
Yep.
And
She
maybe
got
at
a
a,
chance to
at
view
a,
it.
at a follow,
Yeah.
a follow-up meeting.
Yeah.
We could get her view on, cause, I mean, she's got years in the field.
Yep.
I actually found a newspaper at my mother's house from 1985 and Joyce was quoted in it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the future of trash.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Joyce myself for, when she worked at Shea Engineer, and I had a lot of interaction with her with septic systems and things like that.
Yeah, so I have proof she's been around.
she's as an FYI, I don't know if we had mentioned it, we had formed recently, or select board formed a Lake Nipmuc task force for the lake that we have in town.
Yep.
And it's a combination of different individuals from different groups. Joyce is the Board of Health representative. That'll be part of that group. We have somebody from the Concom. We have someone from the select board, although I don't know, that might be the one that's unknown at this point, who that will be. We have, the lake has an association.
Mhm.
We have a representative from the association. And we also have a representative from the Parks Department and I believe the Highway Department
Correct.
as well, to round that out. So,
I'm sure she'll prove an invaluable resource to
oh,
them.
for sure, yeah.
She's a bulldog.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
All right, so, we'll obviously be an ongoing,
yeah,
intermittent subject
Mhm.
as things evolve and
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen act or don't act on it. Or we may find a select board member, attending a meeting, asking us some questions.
what we probably should do, if we haven't already, is maybe do a direct reach out to the select board as a follow-up, just to ask if they have at this point, um, anyone volunteer or to kind of attend,
That's a good idea.
just to see where they're at. I mean, there's so much going on sometimes, may not be on the radar at the moment. Because it would be nice to have that presence back.
Yeah, Lonnie did a great job.
Yeah.
He was definitely really helpful with the tech.
Yep.
Side of things. If we needed to have a visual or something, he was very good at pulling something up to give everybody an explanation of what we were trying to talk about.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. EOH budget accounts discussion.
I did email the FinCom to see if we can get on their agenda for the next time around to talk about our accounts and also possible revolving account for waste management for trash recycling. I'm just waiting to hear back from them.
Okay.
I emailed them.
Do we have, I'll call it a chart of accounts?
I do have a list of our accounts, yes.
Okay. Could you forward that,
Yes.
maybe in an email?
Mhm.
I'll have one of my girls print it.
Yep.
Off the top of my head, I think the only account that I'm a little, I don't like the title, is what do we call it, a Title V account?
Title V revolving,
Account,
Yeah.
okay. Now, if I remember correctly, and I'll keep this brief, that was for engineering money that we receive, that we hold on to until we get the bill from the engineer for that particular project.
correct.
So septic systems mostly. I don't know if calling that the Title V account, if that's how it's titled. I don't know if I don't like that. I think I'd like to see it retitled as engineering fees, something like that.
Because it is a little bit more than just Title V.
Oh, definitely.
Where those services.
Right, and Title V
are built.
is a law
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
that gives you a set of standards for waste disposal.
mm-hmm.
So I know what Title V is, and I know we have to comply with Title V. And if we can't, for a septic system, let's say, we can't meet the Title V standards, we're allowed to do a local upgrade.
Mhm.
I just don't think it's a good name for an account.
yeah, no, I agree with you.
So
Probably a better name we could give it.
it seemed, for some reason, it throws me off when it said Title V account. So one of the things that I would like to discuss is having that renamed. Uh, The other thing is obviously a way to hold on to funds that come from E.L. Harvey, or money that is collected by the subscribers that is not paid out within a tax year. So that if we, like, I know at one point you mentioned we might have 15,000 left in trash disposal.
Yeah.
If that's, let's just say the bills total 10 by the end of that tax year, that 5 should go back to the subscribers in some way. So we've talked about this and just never really got it to the finish line. An account, obviously with a cap on it, revolving account, to hold on to those funds so that we could use them to pay down some of the expense that the subscribers shoulder. I don't know what to title that account, but even money we get, when we get money back from hazardous waste day. Now, hazardous waste day is open to everyone in town, not just the subscribers. But when E.L. Harvey gives us a check for $5,000 or $6,000, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
That money it belongs to the subscribers. So we need an account that money can go in and that money can be held. So that we can use it to pay a bill of the subscribers. And again, I don't know what the appropriate title for that that account should be.
Mhm.
I don't know if it needs to be more in one account or an account with 2 sub accounts. I'm not, I don't know what the bookkeeping side of it should be, but I know that those monies should not disappear if it's subscriber dollars. It belongs to the subscribers. So my goal in working with finance, working with the tax collector, and whoever else we have to work with, is being able to retain those funds. Now, again, I realize all revolving accounts have a cap on them, and if you go over that cap, then that money
Sure.
is gone.
You just set the cap reasonable so that you're covered.
Right, and
Yeah.
if for some reason the cap was 50 and we hit 250, and they needed to take the 250 off the top, so be it. I'm not looking to keep anything from the town. But I'm looking to try to bend that needle and be as accurate as possible, taking care of that subscriber.
So with that conversation in mind, this is something I actually had seen kicking around. Is this something you were working on
Yes,
along the same lines?
yeah,
So Jack obviously has been kind of working behind the scenes to present something. Because we have to formally, if we're talking about getting into a revolving account situation, we'd have to present it formally and have it put out on an article, with an article on a warrant. It would have to be approved at town meeting.
Right.
I mean, currently we have the one account.
Mhm.
But there had been conversation about adding to that concept and possibly extending a larger portion, the monies that we take in for the trash recycle program as a whole. Consideration for making that a revolving account.
Well, trash sticker money seems to disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't disappear, but it leaves
Thought he-
the subscribers.
Right.
Okay,
I mean,
the money is there, it's just not in the pocket that I feel it should stay in.
and given what you have our group, Board of Health currently overseeing, basically administering the trash recycle program, it would make sense to keep those monies within that domain, because potentially there's an opportunity there where the next billing cycle, there could be funds in there that have been gained from the stickers or something that are left over. So instead of starting at a zero balance like we do every time we do figure out the bill each year, we have something in there that we could say, oh, there's 10,000 collected in stickers. Well, we could take that 10,000 and divide it amongst all the subscribers evenly.
Mhm.
And maybe we could drop the bill for the subscriber the next cycle by $5 or $2 or
Yeah,
something. but
it's not gonna,
use of
it's not gonna
funds.
be a huge amount of money,
No,
but it'll be one of those bills that the subscribers get in the mail that went down versus going up. Or if there is an increase, it would help lower what the increase is. Because it's subscriber money, it's in the subscriber money pocket. So that's my goal.
Do you ever think about asking, instead of a revolving account, an enterprise account?
we went that route. But as I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the enterprise account would have to apply to a function where you have operational expenses.
Mhm.
So if, for example, if we were doing had our own trucks in town and we were controlling the pickup and dispersing of trash with town-owned trucks, then an enterprise account would come into play. But because we have no expense in that regard, we basically hire an outside vendor and they set a rate of cost for the contract. We have no expenses. That was deemed an enterprise fund would not apply in that circumstance.
The water
Water has one.
was able to get an enterprise because they have water meters
Mhm.
that need to be maintained and replaced.
There's a maintenance on.
They have equipment. So they're allowed to actually collect money that's more money than their expenses and hold it so that it's in the account. So if they have to replace or maintain the meters, that money is there. And it was explained to us that that's why that's an enterprise account,
Mhm.
not a revolving account. So I guess there's a slightly different definition for each account.
Yes.
And we kind of got hung up in that when we were trying to make this happen in a hurry. And that was a number of years ago.
Do you guys you don't have any expenses, like when you have a hazardous drop-off day or anything there that you have to pay any vendors or anything that would qualify as an operational expense?
Well, we have a vendor for hazardous waste day in the hazardous sharps. That's considered trash disposal under the trash disposal account.
As long as the money is
Yep.
held in the subscriber pocket, I really don't care what they call the account.
Mhm.
You know, I just don't want it always at the end of the year ending up in the general fund
Mhm.
when it doesn't really belong there.
I mean, I'm sure it gets used wisely and for other things in the community,
Sure.
right? Other needs. But to Alan's point, this program is sustained by a group of people, a group of residents, really. It's not everyone. It's not tax-based program. It's a group of people, large group of people, fortunately, that have joined the program, but because it's that way, it's subscriber-based, they should benefit financially from any potential extra monies that come in around that program that we take in. They should benefit from potentially
Yeah.
some sort of credit to apply on a future bill.
And at the same time, we need to be accountable
Mhm.
because we can't run short. We can't run short and say we don't have enough money to pay the bills. So there's an element of accountability there too, monitoring what's going in and what's going out and making sure that we can meet all our bills. And by having the ability to hold on to a sum of money, we may decide, all right, listen, Craft World is upside down. We could take $2 off of every subscriber for the next year. Let's just hold that one,
Mhm.
because we don't want to have to go back to the taxpayers and say, hey, Trash World's upside down. Tip fees went up. We don't have enough money to pay the bill. We need the taxpayer money to pay the bill.
Mhm.
So it's all in the name of accountability. It's not who's gonna hold the money. It's just another way of measuring how well we're doing. Whether we've always tried to keep our fees for well permits and, Title V things and everything at the minimum. And we look at some towns, and some towns are 4 times what we're charging.
To keep them, I don't know, minimums, I prefer to use fair
Mhm.
for the expense that's incurred against the fee. So for example, when somebody comes in and pays a fee for an application for a septic or whatever, what's the actual cost involved by the Board of Health to make sure that all goes in and happens? Basically, you're talking about engineering reviews and looking at the plans, Steve's time for the inspections, all that stuff. You try to figure out a reasonable number to charge against the expense that's going to come in for their services that they're putting out. So we've always been pretty conscious of that, and we think, we do a pretty good job overall.
We have, but our expenses have gone up because we knew and we were warned by AJ that Lenny was giving us a deal. And Lenny had control over how he did it, the time frame in which he did it, and he was very good at what he did. But he was cheap.
You just had a very low,
He did a number of
expense.
towns. He was cheap, and we had the discussion. We knew that was not gonna go on forever,
Mhm.
and we've seen it. Steve Donatelli is fair.
Yeah.
But he's more money than Lenny.
Yep.
Okay? You're fair,
Mhm.
but you're more money than Lenny.
Mhm.
And as the town grows, we're gonna need more hours.
Mhm.
I see that coming.
We need to be prepared for that. And we need to be able to pay for that. Because there's no putting it off.
Right. Right.
Okay, those inspections have to be done. Those re-inspections have to be done. And again, as the town grows, that dictates how much we have to provide. So, it's something that we constantly look at, but again, we not only need to charge the appropriate amounts, we cannot, at the end of the tax year, have our accounts go to zero.
Right.
Because what if we thought we could keep our fees the same? And 3 months into the next tax year, our expenses go up. We're in the rears now.
Yeah.
So we need to have certain cushions in certain accounts. Because even though we might not know, it's almost like a seasonal thing. People are ordering retailers are ordering their Christmas stuff, in the spring.
Oh, yeah.
They're not waiting till October to order. You're always a season or 2 ahead.
And this is really from a budgeting perspective. So basically, and credit to Missy, who've been with us for years, always did a very good job at this. And Jack as well, picking us up. You build that little buffer in, you anticipate little increases. So your budget that you propose to the town that goes before FinCom and ultimately approved is factoring in those things that typically and historically, when the end of the fiscal year comes, from a budgetary perspective, the Board of Health has always been returning money back. May not actually be real dollars, but from a paper perspective, we got through the fiscal year with less money than we actually budgeted for.
Mhm.
And where there are dollars that do go back, like sticker money now and things, that are real dollars that go to the general fund. But that's, we've always had a pretty good process.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We don't know if we're always gonna be that fortunate.
Right. Right.
You know? Trash alone, the contract saw a huge increase, and we know where tip fees are going.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know where recycling is going, but we know it's going up.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be prepared. We don't want to be in a position where at the end of the year, we're short.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't want to be putting a burden on the subscribers that's unnecessary.
Mhm.
So it does take a lot of work, and that's my marriage to the trash program, is all that time and effort we put
Mhm.
into to try to make that work. So
That goes to the whole point of the people that you put into positions, appointed or elected. You want them, you hope the residents should trust in the fact that they got good people that are looking out for their interests, for the town's interest as a whole. And again, there may be some situations where they may not be in full agreement. From a health agent perspective,
Mm-hmm.
probably run into that, but being able to do what you can for them as best you can with the guidelines that we have to, some cases we're forced to go by.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there are some things that we as a Board of Health have a little bit of wiggle room to help here and there. Some things it's like this is what it is, and unfortunately we can't deviate from that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unless the law changes.
Mhm.
So
that's sort of what I'd like to keep working on a continuing basis with whatever other departments we have to have discussions with. So when it comes time to get the warrant going, we're ready.
All right,
Yep.
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else?
On my part.
Anything from anybody listening in that they'd like to ask questions about?
Hello, this is Jay Walling from 4 Elm Street. I spoke
Oh,
with Jack via
you're right.
email this morning.
That's right, Jay, I'm sorry, I forgot all about it.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good evening.
Give me 1 second.
Good.
Jack's looking something up here for us on your topic.
I did print it out, sorry, forgot all about it, Jay.
We're good.
No problem. I was wondering if I'd been forgotten, but
I'm sorry. All right, so I received an email from Jay this morning. I did contact Danielle, our animal inspector, about the situation. There is a resident on Hastings Street that has rabbits, and their feces is piling up and it's causing fly issues. I guess we're worried about the feces overflowing, the flies are overflowing, and the possible contamination of the well water in the property.
which is about, my well is a shallow dug well about 6 feet away from these cages.
Yeah.
And,
I remember this topic.
it was a
I
couple years
remember-
ago.
Yeah, and I remember our discussions. This
Well, the
sounds-
resolution 2 years ago was that he would put trays underneath the cages, which would catch all the poop, and he
Right.
would be able to easily clean it out regularly and put them in trash bags and get them out of there.
Yep.
But he's not keeping up with it, and then they're like up at the top, and there's white mold growing on the top of the feces and urine, I guess, too.
Yeah.
And of course,
All
the
right, so-
flies, because they get cleaned out so far apart in the times between cleanouts, the life cycle of the fly is just like, out of control. Whereas if you were to clean them every 3 or 4 days, you would break that. You'd be getting the eggs that they hatch in there. You'd be getting rid of all that, and they'd never be hatching like they are.
Okay. Jay, is this a recent problem, like within the last few months, or has this been the procedure since we spoke last?
Well, last summer we had a lot of flies too, but I didn't look over the fence to see what was going on. It's not easy to do because they're 6 foot tall privacy fences and
Mhm.
but this year they were really bad. The smell is really bad. We're right on the other side. We have a pool. We're trying to enjoy that, but you sit out there and the flies are landing on you, and and the smell is bad. The flies have
Okay.
been bad. They're not as quite as bad now as they were earlier in the season. But when I looked over the fence yesterday, and I could see that the trays were full and the white mold was growing. So I took a couple pictures. I sent one on to the Board of Health, all you folks. And I know, Jack, you saw it probably. I'm assuming you saw the picture. And
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, I'm guessing 2 or 3 inches deep. So
Okay.
it has to take at least a month for a rabbit to make that much, I would think. I'm no expert, but, and I
Um,
just want the cages to be cleaned out like every 3 or 4 days, or clean out those trays and get rid of
sure.
that stuff.
Yeah, no,
That's all I'm asking.
we understand, and I would say that this is probably something for our animal inspector to check out.
Yeah, I did call Danielle today, told her the situation. I did forward her the email.
Okay,
I was able to track down a phone number for the resident on Hastings Street, and she was gonna reach out to him either this afternoon. She was in another town working, but she was gonna try to reach out this afternoon or tomorrow.
okay. All right, Jay.
I think the situation is probably the same in the barn. I know there's a lot of rabbits in there too. I don't know how many they have altogether. I'm assuming that it's probably the same in there.
All right, Jay, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. As you heard, Jack has already put a call out to the animal inspector to get together with the property owner and get this resolved.
Is that Danielle? Is that her name?
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Okay, great,
So, fortunately, something's already in motion. And
great. Okay,
we will wait to hear back from Danielle. If for some reason you don't feel that it was remedied to your satisfaction, please feel free to let us know and attend our next meeting in 2 weeks.
okay,
But
great.
Danielle is very good, and I'm gonna hope that the owner will take care of this right away.
Okay, that sounds
Hey,
good.
thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening to me and taking some action.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely, yep.
Jack's on the ball.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank
You
you.
take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm gonna assume this shouldn't be a problem because the homeowner has already been aware of this from previous discussions over the years.
Sounds like they might have just gotten a little,
Behind.
lazy.
Yeah.
Okay, behind.
Behind.
In there, in what was put forth as a way to, take care of what they have and to be a good neighbor.
Keep it maintained.
Yep. And for whatever reason, maybe there was a reason, so that's what Danielle's.
Yep. We'll give them a little spark to catch up on their maintenance.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll wait to see Danielle's report.
What
Okay.
about Kevin Sullivan too? As the ACO? too?
I never reached out to Kevin Sullivan.
No. So let Danielle do it first. Maybe if she needs help, she can call Kevin.
Yeah, I want to say for some reason this comes under more like livestock
Mm-hmm.
versus animal control. I know there's some overlap.
Yep.
But I'm optimistic that when someone knocks on the door, that they'll get on it,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they'll stay on it. Because we had quite a few concerned people.
Yeah. How
When we
many?
first had this discussion, former animal inspector
Baxter Road.
Larry Pearson, he even came because he knows the animal owner, and he knows the quality of their rabbits and things like that. And he wanted to make sure that from a right to farm aspect, even though he's not a resident in town anymore, that, you know, they weren't gonna be penalized. So they realized the homeowner realized the importance of trying to be a good neighbor and stay on top of the maintenance. So I'm gonna go with Tom and hope that they just kind of fell behind
Mm,
and they'll jump back on keeping that up. Because I believe the trays were his suggestion, the animal owner's suggestion on how to try to catch everything and dispose of it before it sat on the ground. Anything else?
It's really it on my end, I'm sorry. Did you say you had a barn of rabbits as well?
There is a barn on the property.
Yeah, that was something that came up a couple of years ago when this issue was presented to us, that as to whether or not, in addition to the cages, what was happening in the barn quantity wise as well too. I'm not sure the details. Danielle may have a report somewhere from that visit.
I don't know. I have a
Oh, was
feeling.
it Max that?
Yeah, it was Max. I bet it was Max back then.
2 years, that's right.
Yeah.
Max Carboni was our animal inspector. Do you know Max?
no, I don't.
He'd been our inspector for many, many years.
Yeah, he grew up on Calvert Farm,
Oh, yeah.
that neighborhood.
Yep.
Nice guy. He's in northern Florida now.
But it's funny, Jay seems to know Danielle's name there. Maybe from doing inspections more recently, since we brought
Probably,
him in
maybe
as
barn
animal inspector.
inspections.
Barn inspections,
Yeah.
maybe.
Barn
Yeah.
inspections.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's hope that we get a clean bill of health on that before the next meeting.
Oh, I'm sure we would.
Mm-hmm.
Next meeting scheduled,
All right, next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 9th,
7:30.
7:30.
All righty.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn for the evening.
I'll step down in second.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.
All righty. Interesting.